Hello, my very good friends, and welcome to this episode of Time Between Times Storytelling with me, Owen Staton. Thank you so much for your best wishes regarding my illness last week. I am definitely on the mend, but your messages helped a lot. Thank you very much. I am really excited. This weekend I am off to Glastonbury to meet up with some friends, to walk in the footsteps of legends, to visit the Tor and stay in a haunted hotel. That's what Christmas is for, is it not? But anyway, I'm really looking forward to it, and I will soon report back. I will put pictures of my visit on my Ko-fi and Patreon pages if anyone wants to see them, and I may just even tell a tale in the Tor. That would be something to look forward to. But in the meantime, my friends, how about we tell a story right now? A story that happened in Glastonbury a long time ago. The nights are growing dark, but the celebratory lights are starting to flicker. Midwinter is soon upon us, but it's a time of joy, a time of bringing people together, a time of stories. So sit back, relax, close your eyes if it's safe to do so, and join me as I take you on a tide of tales at the time between times. Let us begin. You are sat at the fireplace. You look outside the window and see that snow is starting to fall. Small flakes that flitter on the breeze. You think, shall I go out on a night like this, where the winter outside looks like a picture postcard, or shall I? There is no choice. Tonight you gather at the fire pit, so you put on your warmest coat, your thickest gloves, your woolly hat, wrap a scarf around your face, and take the step out into the road outside your house. The wind hits your face like a thunderbolt, and you take a step back. But it's the sort of cold that brings warmth to your heart. You look around. All your neighbours and all the houses are now filled with decorations and bright lights, and this makes you happy. You stride up the road with purpose. A small layer of frost covers the pavement, and you take care as you walk. And then you reach it, the entrance to the forest. You look inside. It's so dark you could not see a hand in front of your face, but you are filled with courage. So taking a breath, you step into the woods. Every step you take crunches on frozen leaves. You come to the old mossy tower, now filled with frost. The babbling brook is not babbling nor a brook, just a frozen bit of water. And you step over it, the back of your foot catching it, and it just cracks underneath. And there you see it, the clearing. There are a group of figures huddled around a small fire, warming their hands, shuffling back and forth. But as you approach, they turn and greet you. For you have made that effort. You have come here. And you look up. The night is clear, the stars are bright. But there is that glow in the distance that means the sun is about to set. And then you realize that now is the time between times, the time when it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey. The time when the veil between our world and the fairy world grows wafer thin, so thin that for a few moments, and just a few moments, you can reach into their realm, and for a few moments they can reach into ours. For now is the time that people see lights in the sky. Now is the time that people see the Tylwyth Teg. Now is the time that people see ghosts. So let me take you long ago and far away, as we sit and feel the warmth of the fire on our hands. Far away you can hear the howl of wolves, the growl of bears, but you know you are safe. Safe right here, at the fire pit, in the heart of the forest. Many years ago, in a land far from where you sit, Queen Guinevere and a knight called Celwydd were making their way through the forest. Guinevere had left Camelot, for a bit of peace, for even Arthur's court was filled with noise sometimes. She knew of a small stream nearby where it is said that the fairy folk gathered. Often she would sit there, just lost in her thoughts. So she took Celwydd with her to make sure that all was safe. They reached the stream and got off their horses. She put her hand into the water. It felt as cold as ice, but it was so clear and crystal and clean that she felt a happiness in her heart. The faithful knight was standing behind, watching her. But then suddenly, and without warning, an arrow shot through the sky that caught him right in the chest. He fell to his knees, tried to say something, but then collapsed. Guinevere got up and looked around, and there, out of the forest, came a group of figures dressed in robes, carrying swords and bows. They grabbed hold of her, put her on one of their horses, and rode off into the forest. The hours in the afternoon stretched out, and back in Camelot, Arthur worried about where his wife had gone. He went out a-looking with some of his knights. He knew she liked to go to the stream, so made his way down there. They found the horses, and they found the knight Celwydd, dying on the ground with an arrow in his chest. Arthur cradled his head in his hands and said, "Where is my wife? Do you know where she is gone?" And with his dying breath, Celwydd looked up to Arthur and said, "I am sorry, my lord. I failed in my duty. She has been taken by Melwas from Glastonbury, the place with the great hill. I saw his face under the hood." And with that he died. Arthur's rage knew no bounds. He knew of this Melwas. He had a fort atop the great hill in Glastonbury, the Summerland, but a day's ride away. So Arthur gathered his knights, gathered their horses, gathered their armour, and gathered their weapons, and the next morning, as the sun broke in the sky, they rode off to this place. The kingdoms in which they travelled were flat, but there they could see it for miles around, the great fortress atop the hill. A hill so big it felt strangely out of place, but there it was. As they rode closer, the ground became marshier and softer, like the water came and went from the same place. It was said that this was truly a magical place, but all Arthur could think of was the return of Guinevere. By nightfall, they had arrived at the foot of the hill, and they looked up. Inside they could hear revelling and music, and Arthur's heart was filled with anger, for how could someone be enjoying themselves at a time like this? As the night fell and the moon rose, clouds started to gather, but by midnight the sky was rent with storm, and throughout the night the rain fell down like a torrent, like great waterfalls falling from the sky. By the time the morning came, Arthur went to gather his knights to form an attack on Glastonbury. But suddenly the water was everywhere, forcing them to retreat. The horses' legs were filled with water. It was only by getting on the horse's back that they could leave. Such was the deluge. Arthur and his men retreated about a mile from the hill, to the laughter of those inside. He sat that day and stewed. This would not be a victory for Melwas. This would be a victory for Camelot, for Arthur, and his wife would soon be returned to him. The next morning he came up with an idea. They went to the local villages and found some boats, those used to fish not far in the rivers. And as the sun broke the next day, they started to row towards the hill, which was now just sticking out of a lake of water. But as they approached, the wind grew strong and the boat started to blow back and forth, and inside the castle at the top of the hill, Melwas and his men laughed once more. That day Arthur retreated to the camp, not knowing what to do. The next day was a brighter day, and the rain had stopped and the water started to recede, but he knew that his enemies would be prepared for him atop the hill. Arrows would fall down like rain, so he realized he had to do something. So he waited till nightfall. And then a dark procession of armoured men, lit by torches, started to surround the hill, ready for battle. They could see the lights of the castle above, they could hear the revelry within, and slowly, step by step, they made their way up to the hilltop. Arthur had called, "When I sound my horn, we will charge at the walls." By daybreak in the morning, by the time the sun starts to rise, at the time between times, we shall be masters of that castle. They crept up. Each step felt like a mountain, such was the steepness of this hill. But as they approached the castle closer and closer, Arthur pulled out the horn and prepared to blow, when suddenly, silhouetted against the moonlight, silhouetted against the flames from within inside the castle walls, Arthur saw two figures standing outside the gatehouse of the fortress. He strained his eyes, and there, unmistakably against the silhouette, he made out his wife, Guinevere, standing there. But the next man next to her seemed to be wearing a monk's habit. On seeing Arthur, they both approached, and Guinevere ran to him, grabbed him in her arms, and they hugged outside the castle. But the monk approached and started to speak to Arthur. "My lord Arthur, my name is Gildas. I am a chronicler of these lands. I have spoken to Melwas within the castle walls, and he has agreed to release your wife, so she may return unharmed. He only wished you to pay him a sum of money for her return, and he is willing to bow to you as lord of these lands, and make friends. Even though he has slain one of your knights, he offers servitude for the rest of his life in penance for this deed. Now I know your heart is full of anger. I know your blood wants to boil. I know you wish the sound of battle. But hear me out. This great tor, this hill, surrounded by water and field, a mountain amongst flat lands, is a magical place. Many years ago, the Lord Jesus himself walked these lands, healing the sick and preaching to the poor. And after his death in a land far away long ago, Joseph of Arimathea came here also, saying this was one of the most holy places that he had ever seen, and it was here, right here, on top that hill, many years ago before the Saxons came to these lands, that the first church on these islands were built. Joseph planted his staff in the ground just below there, and every year on Christmas Day it flowers, and only on Christmas Day. Do you want to be the Lord who brings battle to these lands? Do you want to be the Lord that shatters the peace that has stood for centuries? I have seen into the future, and I know that this is the place that you want to rest. So do not bring war or battle or hate or blood here, for this is a place of peace, of legend, of myth, of magic. Now take Guinevere and return to Camelot. Melwas will offer himself in the new year as your servant." The monk's words brought a stillness to Arthur's heart. He turned around and looked down from the hill at the land all around him, and truly did feel there was some magic there. He ordered his knights to retreat, and they returned to Camelot to ponder. And just as Gildas had said, Melwas emerged at Camelot full of apologies, and offered all his men all his lands in the service of Arthur, and became one of his most loyal servants. And there, many years later, there under the great tor in Glastonbury, Gwlad y Haf, Arthur was buried, his grave found many years later by the monks of the abbey there, bringing tourists from all around the land, and a place that I will soon visit, and maybe tell this tale atop the tor at the time between times, just as I have told it to you right now, for they say that that truly is a magic place, where the veil between our world and the fairy world is truly at its thinnest. A place of song, a place of celebration, and a place of story. And that, my friends, is the tale of Arthur and Melwas, written down by Gildas the Sage many, many years ago. I thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. If you wish to support me further, why not join my Ko-fi page at kofi.com/Owen Staton. I have released a new video there this month where I take on a storytelling challenge, building a story out of random cards to tell to you. I was quite emotional by its outcome. Or join my growing band of Patreons at patreon.com/Owen Staton 7. The same tale, the same film is there for you to view. But in the meantime, I hope you are preparing for the festive season with joy in your heart and a story in your soul. Join me again, here, at the time between times, the time when it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey, for more tales traditionally told. Until then, take care, my friends. Nostar.